Welcome to the Point of Truth podcast, hosted by Jay.
Oh, tell me the truth, your truth, tell me the truth, I wanna know the truth, so tell me the truth.
Hello, you beautiful souls. This is the Pursuit of Truth podcast with Jay, and I have Jeremy Allen on today. He is an Air Force veteran. He is a TikTok influencer, singer-songwriter. And so here we go. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us on the Pursuit of Truth. Let's talk. Let's talk
Thank
about
you.
the truth. Yeah, let's talk about the truth.
It's an exciting subject, isn't it?
Oh, I'm telling you, it really truly is. The consciousness of people, you can just by talking to people, you can see it. It's the most amazing thing that people are really starting to step into their sovereignty. They understand that their sovereignty is given to them by God, not by man. And then once you do that and you get on that journey of healing, man, it's like just the truth comes, and you start to really realize, wow, there's been a lot of conditioning, a lot of programming going on. It's something to see, and you see there's two different sides, right? You see the people that are caught up in the fear, and
right.
then you see the people that are breaking away from this system. Matrix, whatever you want to call it, matrix system, and they're really stepping into what is their divine purpose and really stepping into their greatness, because the greatness truly is within us, right? And it's I think that's what life's all about, is be on this pursuit of really remembering who we are.
Yeah, the remembrance is that's such a great word, and I love to use that as well, because so many people use words like waking up or awakening or and that's a neat word, because there are theories that this is a dream state that we're in, right? And the dream state is actually a little more in touch with our true self than what this is, right? So, yeah, I think that the realization that you don't know what you don't know, and you actually limit what you know on purpose to protect parts of yourself until you're ready, is fascinating to me. And that's something that I didn't realize, obviously nobody really does until you're in the thick of it, looking back with hindsight, that all of this is just getting back to homeostasis of some sort. It's not exactly trying to change or add to, it's actually a peeling away. It's a removing of. And like, it's addition via subtraction, I guess, which a lot of people don't get, but less really is more in this journey, at least. It's less is more, because everything around us is so distracting and deceiving, but I don't really think that it's a nefarious thing any longer. I think that every bit of what we consider deception is actually how we deceived ourselves in the receiving of whatever that messaging is. And then we blame externally for the fact that we got fooled or we fooled ourselves. And then we get angry about it. And so I don't know, man, there's a lot to this journey that I'm realizing now, like about a decade in, that was never outside of myself. None of it. Like, and I'm not here to say like I'm God walking this planet and nobody else matters. But if you truly believe that you're from a source, whether you want to put the label God on it or not, you like, maybe the splitting away from self or source was nothing more than a great way to come back and create over and over again, right? Like, so there's a lot to this, and I mean, I could go on forever just about the fact that I say fact, like it's my truth, so I'll say fact. That nothing that I say or do in this world is actually ever for anyone else. And I truly believe that you see somebody that you feel is homeless or down on their luck and you give them money, that's not for them. You tell somebody that they're beautiful, you're seeing a reflection of yourself. You tell somebody that you're offended by them, and you're upset with a part of yourself that has a limiting belief. You welcome somebody to your home, and you're actually testing your creation's validity and like acceptability for other people. It's nothing about them. It's for yourself. Everything that you do, your job, your family, it's all for yourself. As much as we want to say like, oh, I'm doing this for my community. No, you're not. Because your community is you. So you're doing it for yourself.
Right.
And yeah. And so some people would say, well, that's selfish or that's greedy. But really, until you realize that you're the one causing all of your own heartache and your turmoil and your chaos, therefore you're the only one that can come back and fix it. Only then do you realize that, oh, it wasn't really done to me. It was done for me, so I could learn how to unravel it and accept it. Right?
It's this shift in mindset, right?
Yeah.
Because we could be, oh, this happened to me, that happened, oh my gosh, that's happening to me. Well, where it's, okay, this circumstance, and I've always said circumstances are temporary. And, you know, everybody's level of suffering is a perspective. It's their own perspective. But at the end of the day, like, we're all going through it. So we all have that in common, right? So when we step in, we truly can set the example to keep encouraging people to do the work, to really dive in, right? And to really what it is.
I think so. And I also think that like it's vital to realize and then remember throughout the process that we can get excited about it. We can get really, really like amped up about changes and about new paradigm shifts and perspectives. And we can want to tell the world. And, you know, so like you had mentioned TikTok earlier or any other social media thing. What I'm learning again about this, like I ran a long form podcast for quite some time.
Oh, wow.
And
cool.
it was great. It was great. It was called What More Could You Want? We did about 62 to 3 hour episodes in a year. And I go back now and I listen to it and I watch it. And everything that I said was for my future self. It had nothing to do with anybody then, any subscribers, any listeners. Every single word that I said was laying out breadcrumbs for me to find my way back. Everything. None of it was for anybody else in the world. It didn't matter who else heard it or saw it. I had to say it so I could come back and hear it.
You know what? I'm having like this moment right now. Like just, wow.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah. When I write a song,
it's like totally clicked right now. Like totally
good.
What you're saying.
So,
my gosh.
So also like being a songwriter, I'll lean into this for a second.
Yeah.
It's no different because I'll write a song and it pours through me. It's not mine. I just sort of, it channels in.
Right.
And then I convey it via my own lens and I make it into my song, right?
Right.
And then my song, other people may say, wow, that's really like relatable. Like, it's like you wrote my song. Well, I did, but it was so that you could hear it when you were ready for it, needed it. But what's really wild is now I go back to those same songs and I say, well, I don't know why I wrote it at the time, but now I do. Now it makes sense. I thought I was writing this song about, a romantic relationship, but I wasn't. I was writing about my relationship with my creator, my source, my God. It had nothing to do with that other person. It was teaching me a lesson about self-love and acceptance and forgiveness of myself. Because until you can do that, you can't do it for anybody else. So when you realize that your words are for you, then you have to also realize, like I said, that your actions are for you. When you don't trust someone else, it's because you don't trust yourself. When you can't forgive someone else, it's because you can't forgive yourself. When you can't love someone else, it's because you haven't figured out how to love yourself. Now, we all say we do these things, but it's with a guise of societal norms, and it's with this conditioning that was placed on us. And these agreements, like Don Miguel Ruiz says in the 4 agreements, it's like, if you take it personally, you're getting it wrong. If you, and by taking it personally, I mean, by feeling like the other person's actions are about you, because remember, if your actions and words are yours for you, then theirs are too. They have nothing to do with you. They're for them.
Right.
So what you're supposed to do is listen. Don't tell them what your thoughts are. It doesn't matter what your thoughts are.
Right.
You listen. You give feedback via validating body language, via validating words and expressions. But you don't put your own spin on it. And it's so neat because I catch myself in conversations now, like out in public, where somebody will be sharing something with me, and I will want so badly to interject with something that provides commonality or camaraderie or just accept me because I know or do the same thing. Whatever your reason is, it's wrong. It's wrong.
Right.
It's wrong. At least it's not wrong to share, but if you're sharing because you're trying to get something out of it, which we always are, like approval, validation, love, admiration, whatever, then you're just missing the point,
Right.
And I don't want to beat that horse, too long, but like, it's sort of foundational. Like,
Right.
if you can go into a conversation and just understand that none of this is for you, listen more than you speak, and only speak when you're asked.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, it's really, it's a different form of communication than what we were all taught.
It truly is. And also, I think opinions, right? Like when we want to, and you catch yourself, like as you start to evolve and you start to become mindful and practice this by being mindful and of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, especially during an interaction with someone, right? Because we are mirrors. We truly are mirrors. You're a mirror of me. I'm a mirror of you. So if something comes up, something starts to, I hate that word, trigger, but something starts to boil, we'll say, whether it produces a thought, a feeling, or an emotion, then we really have to look at it and say, why? What is this? Let's dig deeper. And it's an evolving thing, right? We're evolving when you're on the healing journey and you're looking at everything that you've gone through and this is a deprogramming, really, is really what it is. And taking we've been conditioned to do things in this life, and we have to start to question everything and question our beliefs. And then it takes us on this path. And a lot of it is truly, I believe, surrendering.
Yeah.
Surrendering.
Well, of course. Well, yeah.
Your own control,
letting
right?
go. Yeah. Letting go. Right. Yeah.
Big time.
Well, I want to go back a little bit too, because, you mentioned the mirroring and the reflection.
Right.
So I'm going to throw out like a what if. Like, I love these because it's something I don't know, but it's something that I think is very, very plausible. So what if that moment whenever that God separates itself from itself, whether it's via creating something else or a complete destruction of oneself, so that it can go out, become better via knowledge and expansion or knowledge and love and growth, and then come back and provide itself expansion. So as we grow, the universe or the world, everything grows, it expands too.
Absolutely.
So having said that, what if every one of us is a fraction and fractal of God? Therefore, when we see each other, what we think we're seeing is something external, but what it really is an internal part of us that went out on its own hero's journey or its own fool's journey and came back with the gold or the wisdom. It transmuted lead into gold internally. So it took Lower Egypt and transmuted it into the throne, right?
Right.
So every single person or every object we see outside of ourselves is of matter or of creation, but it's all connected. And what it's doing is it's not seeing God external of itself. It's seeing something that reminds itself of something in itself because it is itself, not because it's there and it's something or somebody else. It's a completely a different world altogether because of all of the perspectives and the experiences and the turmoil and the all the growth, but it's really still just a piece of the bigger picture. It's much like if you take a vial of water out of the Pacific Ocean and then you say, well, this is water, this isn't the ocean. Well,
Yeah.
really? Like, it's not the entire ocean, so you can't say it's in the entirety of God or source or creation.
Right.
But how can you say that it's not still it? How can you say that a person is not God or of God? Because it is. So if you say that and you make that your truth, then everything, everyone around you is God. So if you can't forgive yourself, you can't forgive God. If you can't forgive someone else, you can't forgive God. If you're angry at yourself or someone else, you're angry at God. If you curse yourself and hate yourself, you hate and you curse God, your creator. The moment you realize that you're doing these things, you have to have this spark of, oh, okay, wait a minute. If I can do all that bad, then what's the other end of that pendulum swinging back? It's good.
Right.
Ah, okay. So I can transmute my negativity and my lower energy into whatever I want? Huh. Okay. And then when you forget that and remember it and forget it and remember it, and eventually that delta is shorter, or that gap in between is shorter, and all of a sudden you're living your life in a way where all of the other things disappear. You don't see them because they're operating in a different mode or frequency or density or dimension or whatever you want to call it. It literally goes away because it no longer resonates where you are, right? And I mean, I don't know. It's all connected. We're all connected. And the only thing that matters is one day you wake up and you say, oh shit, we're all connected and we all matter, and I need to love everything and everyone, because if I don't, I'm not doing the same for myself.
Right.
So yeah,
it's a remarkable journey, right? When you're like,
yeah,
you start to get it and you start to really realize that this system that we do live in it's truly this psychological warfare that's going on. And once you break away from that, you realize what it is. You're like, oh, I know. I'm remembering who I am. I am the essence of God. There is no separation.
Right. It's all that system that we speak of.
Yeah.
It's not outside of us.
No.
We are the matrix. We are the fabric of time and space and our reality.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the ether. Like, we are the resistance to energy in the ether. So it's our job, once we realize that energy flows through us, that we make it as easy as possible for that energy to flow and maintain energy in motion, right? Don't stifle it. Don't create blockages. Expand and allow yourself to blossom or to bloom, even if it wasn't your expected thing, because it's never going to be, because you're a fraction of the all. So whatever parts that you bring in and take back with you, that's not up to you. It's really not up to you. So you have to accept what comes to you, integrate it, and then take it back with you whenever you go back to wherever back is, right? To do it again or whatever. It's like you go back to God and the collective and you're like, this is a lot. I found a lot. And they say, wow, thank you. And you go through it and you study it. And then one of billions of others do the same thing. And it just keeps getting bigger and better and bigger and better. And it's ourselves. Right. It's as above, so below. It's like, our journey reflects the bigger journey of all of humanity, or all of, the collective, right? It's all connected. And I know I've said that a lot today already, but I am not my thoughts. I am not anything other than what I accept and a lot of pass through me. And none of it defines me, because if I tell you right now my name's Jeremy, but in 5 seconds from now I say, you know what? I think I want my name to be Brian.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you might have to go fill out a piece of paperwork, but now you've completely changed your truth. You can also say, you know what? I usually wake up in the morning and I'm grumpy, but tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to tell myself, damn it, you're going to smile and you're going to be happy. So it's all decisions. It's all on us. And that right there is the definition of us being more powerful than what we think.
Oh,
like we can create an entire new reality in a moment's notice. How powerful is that? That's
very, very.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Very. And,
Yeah.
you know, and we have, you know, once we do start to align with our source, God, and we start to realize that we do not have this separation, then we're able to like totally deconstruct all of these egos that we have. And it is an amazing process. So,
Yeah.
So tell me, you said 10 years. So you've been on this journey for 10 years. So tell me what led you to this? Like what led you to start to really remember who you were? Because it's always a level of suffering. I think we hit this level of suffering where we're like, okay, I'm done. I am done, you know? So.
Well, you know, I had to go through all the blaming and externalizing, and I had to go through a lot, but I guess I'll go back to what I feel is my beginning, and I'll try to keep it brief.
No, take your time.
So I was born to a 15-year-old unwed young lady who would be kicked out of her home because of the pregnancy and forced to fend for herself at 15. She was raised by what I will call psychopath hillbillies, and unspeakable things took place. So, I came into the world, and by the time I was, 6 years old, I had lived in 47 different homes.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Including a lot of time homeless in between. So there was a long period of not knowing and uncertainty. So that in and of itself could probably be just too much, right? Well, I mentioned that my mother was young. She was still a child. And anything that I tell you, anything that I say here, I would like for this to be received not as finger pointing, anger, blame, anything. It's just factual. Okay. So I'm going to share these facts, and please know that I have forgiven and I love and I have accepted everything as for me and not to me. And I understand that everything that I'm about ready to share with you was on the job training for my higher self, and my tool belt now is pretty packed. So
I love it.
I digress. It was not uncommon for the men that my mother was bringing into our situation, because she was giving a part of herself away. I hate to use the word prostitution, but I too was given away to those men. I was a part of this thing that you read about and you hear about, and you just wonder, wow, how in the world is this real? My mother and her siblings were groomed and taught how to groom, and they did it to all their children. And to this day, they try to control and handle everybody and turn them against each other via triangulation and yada, yada, yada. It's really disgusting. I no longer interact with them. I forgive them. I understand through compassion, because I know where they came from, and I know hurt people hurt people. So anyway, it was not uncommon for me to be dressed in women's clothing. My name was Jeremy. My mother did not name me that. A nun named me that in a hospital, like for unwed mothers. But anyway, the reason I say that is because they would go on to call me Jamie. Interestingly enough,
Wow.
which was my moniker for when I was being abused and treated as a young girl. Not that a young girl should be treated that way. So I would go on to have siblings myself, that would also receive the same kind of, unwanted attention. We were told that this is how our family loved one another. And this was a very special thing. And we were all very special people. And it was challenging for me because having not received the nurturing and the loving kindness and things and, you know, emotions mirrored back, I never got those things. I learned somewhat that I just had to survive. And then I had to raise my brother and sister in a way that they too could survive. So I turned to stealing my mother's drugs and selling them, you know, before I was 10 years old. I turned to giving myself away by my own accord because I learned that that is what provided validation and acceptance. I was raped by multiple babysitters. My siblings were as well. Like, and I say all this without a shred of woe is me. I just want that to be clear. I just want to paint a picture of what got me here.
Jeremy,
I would be locked.
please.
Please.
Let me interrupt
Please.
you for 1 second. So, I think that's amazing where you're at. But what I wanted to ask you is, like, when I'm sitting here and I'm listening to your story, and I feel a sense of compassion. It's not, it's not pity, but it's. I feel a sense of compassion for what you went through.
Well, good. Humans should, right?
And I don't think that's a bad thing. So I want the listeners to understand that. Yeah, I mean it's okay to feel a sense of compassion in this moment. So.
Well, sure, yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, I think if we didn't, we'd all be sort of running.
Yeah.
Well, we might be where we are if, you know, maybe that's the problem, right?
Right. Yeah.
But you know, when you have so many layers of veneer covering the truth, just so you can survive, it's no wonder. But and I'll get back to my story. But our inner child, or what I believe is the same thing people refer to as our shadow. Man, mine did a really good job of protecting me.
Oh.
It didn't do it via methods that I would say were healthy. But when you're trying to escape from something, a family, a system that is so oppressive and so disgusting and toxic and just vile, any means necessary. And my inner child, which I have named with a lot of love and compassion, Jamie, my shadow served me like a knight with some just really banged up armor. And whether I'm opening a notebook to write a song, or I'm meeting someone to go on a date, or I'm stepping on stage to tell my story, I invite Jamie in not only to thank him for serving me so well and so compassionately, but for being such a badass that got me here to do things that I've only dreamt of. And I tell that young man, this is for you. I'm sorry that you had to swing for the fences every day. I'm sorry that you were hurt. I'm sorry that you were the new kid every day and you never finished a school year in the same place. I'm sorry that you smelled like mildew and cigarettes. I'm sorry. But it's okay now. I've got you. And you get to have fun now. And I can't think of anything better to be able to give to somebody, and I'm giving it to myself. So, had moments where I was locked in closets because there was no babysitter. I had moments where I was burned all over my body with cigarettes. I had moments where family members would get me so drunk that I couldn't tell you what happened, but only to wake up not good. I still have memories that come in that stop, like completely stop before I can get to the rest of it because, well, I guess I'm not ready for it yet. But yeah, so that's a large part. I also would go on to get married young myself. Was married for 27 years to the woman that I met when I was 14. We were together for 30. During this time, I would serve in the military and I would experience a lot of loss. I was at Dahran Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia in June. It was June 25th of 1996, which we just passed the anniversary of. Where we lost 19 airmen, most in my dormitory, that I had left 45 minutes before the explosion. Then another instance in Israel, where we lost some civilians because of our presence. So a lot of loss went on, and it was never like your traditional like combat-induced suffrage or loss. It was just happenstance, just you're here and there's mass casualties. So, you know, that would be brought back into my marriage, please go right ahead. Yeah,
second. So
absolutely.
I too, I wasn't at Khobar when it happened. I was alerted. I was a medic, and I was stationed in Germany, and I was part of the aeromedical evacuation team that evac all of those casualties out that made it. So I was there, boots on the ground 8 hours after that happened. So yeah, I was there, and yeah.
Here's, you know, something that's really wild about that. I'll fast forward a little bit, and I'm still trying to get to, like, I'm still really covering how I got here, right? So I don't want to lose that. So I would go on to be stationed at Ramstein. Mm-hmm. I lived right behind launch tool. So not only was I there and present and escaped it, but then I would go back to the scene where my own friends were brought afterwards. So there's been a lot of this, like it was put in my face constantly to give me the opportunity to grief and to heal. And I didn't know it at the time. Of course I didn't know it, you know, you never do. So anyway, I would go on to work for 6 months in Kuwait. A lot of night shift by myself. Young airman, first deployment, had no business. You know, it was just like, oh, well, that sucks. Welcome, get to work, you know. And so when I went home, my family was elated because now I had a trauma outside of the family that they could leverage when necessary for blame. So one day this happened. And I started to see truths in things and started to hear things in a different way and see things in a different way. But everybody around me was telling me to shut up. In fact, my in-laws, the family that I married into, was seemingly about as toxic as what I came from because my mother, father-in-law, and wife told me in the middle of what I called a nervous breakdown, if you just shut the F up, this would all be okay. Or this would all go away. And I heard them. And I would go on to be handled by my mother during this entire situation. I thought it was love and I thought it was nurturing, but it was a grooming abuser handling their subject to make sure that they didn't get out of line and say the wrong thing. And to realize that about your mother, no matter the situation, is trying. So, this realization comes and goes, and I'm on this medication and that medication, and I'm drooling on myself on the couch, and everybody around me is happy. Because Jeremy is sedated, and Jeremy is not in this world right now. And that would go on for a few years. And something in me clicked. I had this voice in me that I would later realize was my inner self, or that speck of God that still resides inside of me. It was telling me to stand up at all costs for myself. And I didn't even realize that I'd been hiding or collapsed in on myself for so long, because now it'd been over 4 decades. But this is what abuse does to children. This is what grooming does to humans. This is what that foul and disgusting vermin does to its victims. You don't know that your life isn't real. You don't know that your projections are just a manifestation of your surviving inner child. You don't know that your introjections from people who love you, like friends and people on the outside of the family structure that's so gross, they're not actually saying anything bad, but the way your brain receives it it's messy, and it's sort of marvelous how it does it to make you feel like you're still in the same unsafe situation, because now that's all that makes you feel safe. So there was one day, it was my daughter's 16th birthday, the next day. And man, I was so excited. I had done things that I had only dreamt of. I had fathered 2 children, and now my daughter was going to be 16. We'd lived in the same home since day one. My children had stability. They went through the same school in the rural community. And damn it, they were awesome kids, super smart, really, really bright, very well put together. And I had started to like pull back from chaos. I had weaned myself off of a lot of medications. I had really gotten to a place where I thought I was doing good. But remember, I had signed a marriage contract with my wife in 1995, who was also from a pretty checkered and jaded past. And because I love her, I will not share that story. But it was one that was fractionally gross like mine, you know? So she was still in this wounded place, presumably, and I was trying to climb out. And if we were crabs in a hot pot, she didn't want me to leave. You know what I mean? And so when I started to pull back, and when she would argue, I would say, darling, what can I do to fix this? I'm sorry that you're in pain. What can I do? She didn't have words. When I said, can I just hug you? She didn't have space for me. She just got angrier and angrier the less that I fed the fire of arguing or, whatever. And so it came to a breaking point on my daughter's birthday, the night before. Some things transpired. It got very, very heated, and I did my best to walk away, and she just wouldn't let me, and it just kept going and kept going and kept going. And then finally, I was in the middle of being assaulted physically. I stopped her in the most gentle and easy way I could, only to be later accused of doing a lot more, all unsubstantiated, nothing. And I was thrown in jail. I was thrown in jail for 3 days, 3 nights, 72-hour felony hold for aggravated domestic battery. And here I sat in this jail cell, just talking to, at the time, God. I didn't know it was God. And I was told to just sit and listen. And so I did that. And I promise you, as long as the story is, it'll be worth it. So I'm sitting in jail, and about halfway through day 1, I'm realizing the gravity of the situation. Okay, this is a felony. There's obviously, I'm going to have to go to court. And so I'm spinning. And these 2 gentlemen come into the jail cell, and they're cousins apparently, and they're coming down off of some sort of meth or fentanyl high or something. And the one is loud and boisterous, and the other one is quiet and seemingly a little shameful. And I'm just watching and I'm listening. I'm sitting in the corner, sort of in this meditative pose, but not closing my eyes because I'm scared to death. This isn't my environment, And so they're withdrawing, and one is getting louder and louder. So he ends up getting put in solitary, and the other one is he's detoxing. And so for about 2 days straight, we listened to him detox. Well, for a day straight, we listened to him detox, and he's yelling and he's getting angry. And I say, what do I do? It's driving me crazy to sit here and listen to this person. So then for about 36 hours, I would try to comfort him. And he was crying out for his children, his mother, God. He was freezing. He was shaking. He was sweating. He was convulsing. And, I'm in a jail cell with people that seem like they belonged there. I didn't feel like I did, but I was there, and I still didn't know why I was there. And so now I'm I'm forcibly making 12 other grown, seemingly hardened convicts into giving me their disgusting blankets so I can cover this young man up and help him sweat this shit out. And they do. And they all sit down and they're quiet. And now I don't know anything else in the world that's going on. I'm rubbing this young man's feet in the middle of a jail cell, showing compassion and trying my best to do what I'm supposed to be doing because I don't know why I'm there still. And I'm rubbing his feet and his lower legs, and I'm trying to keep circulation going, and I'm talking to him I'm listening to him, I should say. And then finally he goes to sleep, and I notice that there's people around me crying. And I notice that there hasn't been a jailer or a bailiff come by our cell now for over, seemingly 8 hours. And now he's sleeping, and it's peaceful. And I go back to the corner, and I sit, and I'm exhausted. And all eyes are on me. And there's not a dry eye in the cell. And I still don't know why I'm there or what I'm doing. And they said, "Who are you?" I said, "What do you mean, who am I?" They said, "They put you in here, didn't they? They put you in here to keep us all quiet, didn't they?" I said, "No, man." I said, "I'm not in here because I want to be or anybody else wants me to be other than my ex-wife who's really hurting right now." I said, I'm just a normal guy, man. I'm a retired military guy. I said, I got 2 kids. I got a house, cars. I said, I'm doing the thing, man. I don't know why I'm here. And so this young man wakes up finally, and he's thankful, and he's got life back in him. He's not pale anymore. And he's thanking me. And I still don't know why I'm there. And now it's the day of my release. 72 hours is coming to an end, and a young man in a red jumpsuit, sweats, shoes, red hair, light skin, very, very Scottish or Irish looking, comes in. But there's something about this young man that I just did not feel well with. People are laughing. It's a great environment. Like, I'm in jail, and now all of a sudden the energy in this place has been shifted. It's something different. So now he comes in, and the jail door locks behind him, and he sits down, and no sooner than he sits down right next to me and Richard, who's this other inmate that I'd been helping through his detox. I guess he had smuggled in some Xanax, and he says to him, "Hey man, got some Xannies, you want one?" And Richard looks at me, and I look at Richard, and everything in me wanted to just beg him, "Please don't do that." And at that moment, the young man that I'd helped for so long says, "Yeah, man, I'd love one." He took a Xanax and checked out. And I said, "Oh my God, this is unbelievable. Why am I here? What the hell?" And then it hit me, and I heard that voice, that internal voice hit me. "Now do you understand why you're here?" And I said, "No." And it said, "Because you're not in control of anything. And you need to stop thinking that you control anything. And you can't control what that young man does, or what your wife does, or what anybody does. All you can do is control yourself, but you better get control of yourself." And so I did. And so from that moment on, I was thankful that I was there to experience that. I found gratitude in it. I would go on through a lengthy court process for a couple years, which just wrapped up this summer. I would take part in a veterans probation kind of thing instead of jail time, and I accepted it all. I didn't fight it. I just said, "Okay, I'm here." I pled guilty because I didn't want to pull my family into a court situation. I said, "I'll just deal with this and I'll figure it out." And by the time I was done, I'd graduated in record speed. And not only did I graduate, but they loved me so much, they asked me to come back and mentor other veterans who were wounded. So now I know why I was in that jail cell that day. Now I know why my wife forced me to get out of my feminine, damaged body in the only way she knew how, so that I could stand up in my own 2 masculine feet that God gave me, and I could do something worth a damn. And I could stop being a victim, and I could learn how to love unconditionally, and I could learn how to be loved, and I could learn how to not take things personally, but I could also learn that God uses me in whatever way it sees fit, and it's not up to me to question it. It's up for me to accept it and to move forward. So some people say that that I'm a disruptor. Some people say that I'm a voice of change and reason and paradigm shifting. And all I know is that my life is better than it's ever been because I completely surrendered and just said, God, what do you want me to do? What is this all about? And I don't believe in God, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea that what put me here is religion or some church or preacher man. Because as a dear friend of mine once said to me, that church is a whorehouse and they're not selling anything but dreams because we shouldn't be waiting for God. God's been waiting for us to return. And so that's where I'm at. And that's what got me here. Yeah. And I could go into astrotheology. I could go into the different laws of the universe. I could go into all the things that I have since tried to start studying to reverse engineer what got me here. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm here and that every day is better than the last. And it doesn't even matter what happens on that day. I just know that I get another shot to do something different each day. And so I live in a place that my little Jamie is safe. And it's hard to not at least have a little emotion about that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't drag me to my knees anymore, you know? But it's taken a long time. It doesn't just happen overnight. And I didn't just realize any of these things until not only had I gone through them, but I had accepted them and loved them as part of me. And so now I look at my shadow and I realize my shadow wasn't full of nefarious, gross stuff. My shadow was full of the things that I'm supposed to do to make myself better. My masculinity, my femininity, my ability to persevere. My shadow was chock full of standing up for myself. My shadow was chock full of taking care of oneself. My shadow was full of loving without expectation. My shadow wasn't full of me doing bad things. So when everybody told me I had to do shadow work, I was confused until the day I realized that, oh, my shadow is different than yours. My shadow is what's going to allow me to stand up on my own and heal myself and walk with my shoulders pulled back, knowing that I did it myself. So now I continue to integrate parts of that. And now I know what boundaries are because they were hidden deep. I know what receiving love is because that was hidden deep. I know what loving without expectation is because that was buried deep. I know what my voice is when I sing now because that too was buried deep. It was all in my shadow. And until I started going into that shadow and really uncovering what was down there, I didn't know that I had those things in my makeup. So now I do, and now I use them as a resource and as a tool, but never in a way that suppresses who I really am, which is somebody that had to go through a lot to get where I am. And I'm proud of myself, and I love myself, and I'm also proud and I love others that are trying to do the same thing and don't even know it. You know, I tell people all the time how proud of them I am, and they just look at me and they don't get it. Yeah. What they don't realize is I'm proud of them because, you know, they just came up with an answer for themselves instead of waiting for me to answer it, right? Or anybody else to answer it, not just me. I mean, whoever.
Hello, beautiful souls. This is Jay. I'm going to cut the podcast here because we talked for a long time, and so I'm going to split both of these podcasts up into two parts. This is going to be part one with Jeremy Allen Stanton from St. Louis. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for coming on and being such a brave soul, sharing your story of survival and just believing in yourself. And I wish you nothing but love and light, and keep going, brother. Keep going. What an amazing story of triumph. And if you're interested in following Jeremy, you can follow him on Just Jeremy Stanton on Instagram and Just Jeremy Allen on TikTok. Also, he is part of a band in the St. Louis area, and he talked about this on the podcast. And that band is Don't Get Dead Noise, at Don't Get Dead Noise. So, folks, thank you so much for dialing into the Pursuit of Truth podcast with Jay. It truly has been an honor to be a part of this platform, to be open to any and all information, and just being mindful of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I'm always going to go back to that. I'm big on mindfulness. I'm a mindfulness coach. And, I'm going through my journey too. So it's not that I know any more, right, than anyone else, right? We're all out here just learning our truth. And if I can help anyone navigate that, then I've done my job. So I've done what I believe is my purpose. I'm not here to tell anybody about how it should be done or how you should go about it. All I can do is share my experience and hope that it provides someone the information they need to start their journey, and or maybe pivot in their journey, whatever it may be. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Jeremy, for joining us. Tune in next week for part 2 with Jeremy Allen Stanton from St. Louis, singer-songwriter, musician, business owner, entrepreneur. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you're interested in coming and sharing your story on the Pursuit of Truth podcast, reach out to me via DM on Instagram, on TikTok, and that would be the Pursuit of Truth podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And until next week, take care of yourself, stay in the present, and do the work. Love you so much. God bless.
Unveiling the